Welcome back to Unity. What are you doing? Um, we're gonna jump straight in because we just took a little break and we're still here. You know who I am. You know what we're doing. I'm not gonna re-explain. Just doing Fiiish in Unity and Godot. Today is Unity. Struggling a bit with Unity UI. Little side note. If this was real game UI here, right? Not debug UI. Debug UI is different. But if this was real game UI, I would probably have built standard components like standard buttons and standard controls and making them seamable via scriptable objects and all of it. But this was supposed to be a quick debug UI, right? A quick debug UI like this one. And so for that, it was too much effort. Um, we're going to continue with that. We're not going to fiddle with the UI too much. There's definitely some broken stuff in there, but I actually want to get into the zone loading and zone spawning, right? So what we will need is probably this button and this field and this bar. Actually, let's more UI. I don't want to do more UI. Okay, but let's. Thank you for being in the game view. Wait, when I pause and switch the screen and come back, the UI was gone, right? Weird. Weird. But I actually want to go into zone loading, right? And for zone loading, we need to add a little bit of debug UI. So I want to have a signal, right? So did this just change our project? No, good, 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 good. So we still wanting to go for parity with Godot, so we can add pickups, right? I want pickups. I want to pick up coins. I want to get up pick up coins and then handle death and restart is kind of done, and then we want the hot more UI, and then more UI, and then more UI, and then we fix the background, the music, and the sound effects, and then we're done. Yay! So I want to have a button that lets us skip to the next zone. Should be pretty straightforward. I mean, yeah, and this is the zone name, so that's probably one more group, and then the zone progress bar, right? So let's just get the UI out of the way. I mean, we're gonna do it anyway, right? So it's under the zoom. Under the zoom, there is, and I think this probably should be one line, right? Maybe we put that next here, next to the progress bar. Okay, so one line with the label. So, and I'm gonna use H boxes for everything, right? So in here, and we can talk about the order, but here we create an empty, right? Create an empty, and that is the zone name H box. And technically this doesn't need to be an H box, but I prefer have boxes and boxes and boxes, right? And so we add a layout group horizontal. And I'm still not sure technically, right? Technically I want this, right? And then I want to add text in here, right? I just want text in here. I'm not sure why the debug. Okay, so this is the zone name, right? And I also want this to be, per definition, the maximum size of the parent. But why is the size of this? What? Wait, so I want this pivoted in its center, right? In its center. Why is the height of this? Okay. Okay, wait. So or do we need the content size fitter actually on this one? Okay, let's remove this again, right? So the noise out there is driving me crazy. I don't know what's wrong. There's a big fat party there at the barber shop. At the frickin' barber shop. So, okay. I want a text field, right? So, what if we just add a text here? So, UI text mesh pro, right? Call this zone name label. And we actually want it under the zoom. Don't ask why, right? And this is the zone name. The thing is, I want this to take up all the space of the parent. I want it left middle aligned, left middle, wrapping, don't wrap, overflow, scroll, right? So what happens if we do this? I mean, I want it full width, right? I want it to be the full width of the parent, so didn't we say overflow scroll? Didn't I just say overflow scroll? So what I don't get, right? The pivot is the center and the anchors should be the min and max. So why can I even set a width here, right? SUI system does not make any sense. Plus also the font is too big. So if we change the size here, the height stays the same of that box and it's kind of okay. So it's width dependent, right? I'm not sure why the text disappears now. Seems buggy to me, but we're gonna ignore that, right? So we have the zone name. And the zone name, I actually want a different font, so let's make that font much smaller. And no, I don't want to auto size. I want the size to, so what I really don't get, right? This height here, the height, where does this height come from? The font is 24, right? So let's make this 36 to give it some room to breathe. And this is the zone name, right? This is the zone name, and there will be some text in here. And let's be done with it. So this zone name, so the debug UI needs to find the zone name label, and I could just have the debug UI have a zone name label member that you can drag and drop into, right? But I actually want to say private text mesh. Which one is it? Equals null. And then we probably do the same we do here, right? And probably we should split that into two, finding the elements and using the elements, right? But we have a zone label game object, and yes, I'm gonna do GO, right? And the name is zone name label. So we do zone name label. And then we say zone label equals actually zone name label, zone label, zone name label, right? Zone name label, zone name label, zone name label, name and label. This is get component. I'm not sure if this is the right one. All right. Let's actually split this. So let's have a void setup, right? And a void configure. There is a reason to this, right? So on start, we just do setup, find everything, and then we configure everything, right? So we find the camera frame, bit of clean. This is configure, right? This is also configure. And this is setup, right? And just for testing for the moment, we say in configure zone name label dot text equals from script. So if I start now, I mean, we could just run this in editor as well, but I'm fine with that. So if I run this, it should change this slash to from script, right? From script. Okay, that is working. Obviously, from script is not true, right? So I want a signal from the game that said zone changed, right? Technically, we don't need that, but so the game manager, right? The game manager, ripple up. So the game has so the game knows where the game manager is, right? And so, Unity custom signals from scripts using signal emitters. Creating an emitter. No, that's not. Oh. Creating signals via scripts. Okay, that's not helpful. Is this not so? We have this, right? For example, we have this here. On click, is this not an emitter? Is this not an emitter? That noise out there is killing me right now. Event. It's an event. Okay. Unity custom event from script. From trigger a custom scripting event from a C# script. Trigger the previously created custom scripting event. The previously created. Oh, okay. So create a script, send event, double in your external. I mean, these tutorials are so. Send my event. Control output. Output trigger. Control output name of output trigger. What is the name of the output? Wait, the output trigger is the control output name of the output trigger. What? Where's my custom event defined? Okay, so this is not the first in the section. Okay, so we create an event. Really? That noise outside is just killing me right now, which is not helping. Oh, come on, kids. It's not even a fun party, they're just... There's only one thing to do. Drown the noise. Better. Zero argument callback that can be saved. My event at... Okay, Unity event. Can we just make that event public and then we... Oh, it's just a Unity event? So what if the... If the game, right? What if the game had a public Unity event of type string? That's it's probably C string. That's what do we want to call it? Zone on zone changed, right? So what if the game actually had an event, right? Can we just... So on zone changed, right? We can do that. So on zone changed, we want to trigger an event on debug UI, right? debug UI, and then we have a dynamic. Okay, that sounds good. So on the debug UI, right? On the debug UI, we have a public void on zone changed. So I want loose coupling. I want loose coupling between these high-level objects, right? These two here. Can you just make this stupid dialogue why does it have to block the UI? I get that it needs to do work, but it can do that in the background, right? So I want these to be loosely coupled. Basically, I say, hey, I drag this object here, this debug UI in here, and then say debug UI on zone changed, right? So that works. Obviously, the event is not triggered. So somehow, and that is now game internal, and this is closed box, not open box from the outside, right? The game manager obviously knows when the zone is changed. So we could ripple through events, and we probably gonna do that. So what if the game has a on zone changed? Well, wait. Oh, I need to double click. So what if the game manager had the same, right? The game manager, and this is where let's oh wait, wrong class. We need to move the entity config out of this, right? But the game manager has basically on you. Why? Wait. The game manager is a mono behavior, right? So the game can do this, right? Oh, because we have Unity engine events imported here. Well, the game manager doesn't have that imported, right? Okay, fair enough. And just for cleanliness, we're gonna sort all of that, right? So the game manager now can emit this event, right? So what if we do spawn zone? Just on spawn zone, right? If we have a zone, after we spawned the zone, so I want to go to this matching brace, please. Can I go here? All right, so here basically. Nope. So we say on zone changed, emit, fix me, right? Is it emit? It's invoke. It's not emit. Wrong language. Invoke, right? So the game now, and this is the bit, we're doubling up, but we want internal logic and external logic, and I'm just gonna copy the signature. So the game, right, the game has a on zone changed. Oh, okay, so we call this handle on zone changed, right? And in this case, we just say on zone changed. We just pass it through, right? We probably want to, oh, and we need to invoke this. So the game manager has that component, right? So the game manager has this list. And okay. So I'm not a fan of objects in the hierarchy having the parents as a reference, right? It should be the parent. Either the parent that when setting it up should set it up, or the child asking the parent. But we're still in get this working mode, and we will have a game handle on zone changed, right? So GameManager, when it changes a zone, sends an event to game, and game just sends it onto the debug UI. So let's have a quick look. I mean, did we wire that up? Did we even wire that up? I'm not sure. I forgot. Well, if stuff takes so long, so if we start playing on zone, there was I saw it here, on zone change to fix me, right? So the debug UI got this change, and we're tracing too much. We have to clean up the traces, but the debug UI gets an on zone changed, right? The debug UI knows the zone name label. So what we can do here is we just say text equals zone name, right? So if I press, I mean, it's not that this is a fast machine, right? It's this. Smile, you're on camera. From script, we start the zone and it gets a fix me because we're sending a fix me, right? So the game manager currently is sending fix me, but what it actually should say is mzone dot name. Do we have access? We do have access. So let's wait till Unity compiled that stuff again. I mean, this is a tiny project. Why? What are you doing, actually? This should be hot reloadable. And then again. So the zone name was empty. Did we never serialize the zone name? So new zone, right? New zone layer name. The new zone doesn't have we serialized the name, right? We serialized the name and we never store it anywhere. Oops. Yeah. So private. Wait. Wait. So decompiler. What the? Oh, that's an object. That's an object. Really? So new zone is a scriptable object, and the scriptable object has a name. So all we have to do is probably we just say set name. Can we do that? Is set name public static. Really? Can't we just say this dot name equals name? There was a setter, right? There was a setter. Okay, that seems to have worked. Let's see how this works. Man looking at load. That's why Unity game developers are so slow. Exactly this, right? Hold on. Okay. I, lo I love fish. I mean, we only have that one zone right now, but that's a good start, right? That is a good start. Obviously, I can't show you an update now because that's the only zone we have, right? So I want to add the progress bar and the next button. But that's kind of loose coupling, right? We still have to drag a bit, and I'm not too happy about this here, that we have to manually patch this up. Probably the child should either connect to the parent or the parent should connect to the child itself via code, but to be cleaned up. So we have this zone label here, right? And I wanted to move the next and the progress bar into its own thing. So what I will do is I'm gonna create a child, right, and call this zone progress h box. And I like to suffix them so I know what it is. So it's under the label. Under the label, we add a component hbox horizontal group. It's a group. Here's the thing. I don't know why this group is so high, right? So why? So this panel, right, has a vertical group. Oh, wait, we changed, but this is a good start, right? This, good, 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 good thing here, right? Um, live and learn. So we have the progress box, right? And what I want here is a progress bar and a button. So we add, I hope there's a progress bar ready made. Do we have a 2D object that is... What is Windows general progress? Oh, that's okay. So Unity UI doesn't have a progress bar. UI elements abstract progress bar. A control that displays the progress between a lower and upper bound value. Oh, that's in UXML. Really? Editor GUI progress bar. There is no... This is what I want, right? This is... Really? So, what if we add an image with a fixed size and add a shader to that? Oh, really? Really? So I would use... So this is where I would start to create custom UI elements, right? But that There is no progress bar in Unity? Is it a raw image? I mean, could we just use a slider? What if we just add a slider? I mean, what if we just add a slider and remove the handle? We have a background, right? How do I see what type is this? So this is, what is this? What is the type of this? This is an image, right? And the fill area is probably also. Where do I see the basic type of this thing? It's probably an image. Can we just add, oh, will this, hmm. We can just steal the background image. So shall we, I mean, really? So we have a background image and a foreground image, and the foreground image is just scaled, right? It shouldn't be that complicated. The question is, do we use an image or a raw image? Let's use an image and call this background, right? And select the background sprite for this. I want this, right? What? What? Why? I want this to be full width, right? Okay, let's try this again. I want this to be the full width of the parent. Oh wait, we have the zone progress bar. We have the box, right? We want to control the width of the child. But why? Min, x and y, 0 to 1, pivot is the middle. I don't want an offset on the left, correct? And I don't want an offset on the right. So I don't want an offset on the right, and I want a height of, let's say, 16 pixels, right? And then the box here should fit the content. So this is the background, right? This is this. And this here is just fixed height as well. This is our progress bar, right? And I just want to add the button real quick. So we add a button and call this the next zone button, right? Ignore the styling. Well, let's not ignore the styling. Let's just fix the text to and say next. And just make this a bit smaller. And I'm not sure why this is center. Why is there so much space around it? Is there, I mean, wait, what the, center, no margins. Why is this center, center, no margins, right? I'm not sure. Oh, that's because this here is controlling the widths, right? So what if we say this has higher priority? Where does this height come from? So we don't want to force expand, right? So we want the button. How do I make this width fit? Okay, it's probably the text, right? The text that needs font size, top, rotation, auto size, no wrapping, right? No wrapping. Overflow is masking. Add component fitter, right? Content size fitter. Where did you? Or did I need to? Unity. Okay. So why? I this is obviously not what I want, right? So can I make this less white, please? I can, but oh, that was the wrong one. I want this less white, right? I can't control this, so this is flexible width, and this, wait, this has a layout element, right? The next zone button has no layout element. So we add a layout element and say preferred widths, right? No. Layout priority is 1, and for this layout, I, I don't understand what I'm doing here. Can you just okay. Flexible width is not wide enough, right? Do I need to add the layout element here? No. Doesn't change a thing, right? Because the text comes from the parent. Okay, so we remove this component, right? So this text has the correct size, right? This looks like the text looks correct, right? Because the content size, min size, we say make it my preferred size, right? So how do we tell this? How do we tell this become wider? And why? Where's this 10 coming from? Hmm. I mean, it's sad that I have to enter that, right? And preferred height is 16. And I'm not flexible, right? And basically, maybe the min width should be 50 and the preferred width, I don't care, and the height, right? And the min height is 16. Let's just set it like this. I'm not sure why this is so high. Where's this height coming from, right? Where's the height coming from for this? So why is this so high? Why is this not okay? Oh, because it's dividing the space between these, because this spacer here, this bottom spacer. Okay, because this panel here. Let's not force expand the children, right? And then we have this. This. It's using the space evenly. I'm not sure why this is. This is nice. Well, this is too high. I don't know where this height is coming from, right? Why is this? So it's actually this button that gives us the height, right? Min width, min height is set, which makes sense. And then we have this text, right? And this text currently has no height. It just has a given width. So I'm not sure where this height is coming from. Either it's the parent element filling it and stretching it, because wait, it's the progress bar. Oh, the progress bar has a height, right? What if the progress bar has no height? I want flexible widths, right? And I want the widths to be high priority, the height. So it's this box that has the height, which comes somehow from the button. And I don't get where this is coming from, but I'm gonna ignore this for now because it's good enough, right? We were at the progress bar. So I want two elements over each other, right? So I'm gonna put the foreground image. So let's say UI image, right? I'm gonna give this a height, right? And gonna make this stretch. Stretch, and then I'm gonna give this a 0 and a 0. Right, so we have this foreground thing here and the background thing. In the foreground, I'm gonna make, I don't know, just to prove a point, I make this reddish, right, with a slight transparency on it. So what we can do is if we anchor this actually on the left, right? So if we anchor this on the left, and then we adapt the widths, right? I want to anchor this on the, so the position should be 0. And the anchors should be x0 pivot is all 0, right? And the y is centered. But y, can you set this to 0? Because what I want is, right, I want to scale this up and down. And then we have our progress bar. That's the basic idea. So I take the background size and that set the foreground size in code to our percentage. I wanted the simplest possible way. I could probably have used a shader for that. So can I do this actually? What if I set this to max and then set this to 0, right? The problem is then I have to do minus. I'd rather set this to 0, right? It's relative to the left end, and then set the actual size. And this is actually size relative to foreground, right? So I'm going to add a progress bar script. I'm going to create a script. I'm going to create a script. Script. Create script. Call this progress bar, right? Let's call it UI progress bar. I'm gonna go to the zone pro. Come on! It's an empty script. Zone progress bar. Gonna drag the UI progress bar on this, right? And then I need the foreground, the background, and the set progress. So the UI progress bar has a, and this is an image, right? And this is this an image or is this UI image? Talking about progress bars. Talking about progress bars. Really? Thank you. So we have a private image background, right? And we have a private image foreground. Foreground equals null. And then we have a setup. Let's keep this a bit cleaner. We've been a bit sloppy, right? Void configure, which does nothing, right? And then we have a void, public void set progress, and that is float progress, right? Float progress, which currently does nothing, but it's good to have it there to wire it up. So what I want to do is var background go, right, is transform dot find background. And actually this is not the go, right? This is not the go. Then I say var background go. And this is basically background dot game object, right? And then I say background equals background go get component image. And image now needs to be imported, right? So Unity UI image. Elements is the new one, right? So we need the old one. So this is the background, right? So, and then we do the same for foreground. I wish there was a better way. I wish there was a better way. You could do this in one line, but then you have a crash and don't know which line the crash is in, right? Which part. So this should work, right? So if I press play, nothing should crash. Reset and pressed and it crashed. Let's press play and wait for that. So nothing crashed, so we probably, oh wait. This is setup, right? This is setup, so let's put it into setup, but we call it setup, right? And then we say configure. And in configure, we actually say set progress. Let's just set it to 50% for testing, right? And so we want to set the width of the foreground object, right? And probably we don't even need probably the game object would have been enough because all we need is a transform, right? So Unity transform. I wish there was a better way to access. There probably is a better way, right? So can we get this size? Size is on the transform, right? Oh, it's a rect transform. Oh. Oh. Because we want this, right? We want the width. So let's do rect transform. Thanks for nothing. So we want offset max, right? Offset max. So that's the vector 2. So that is the size, right? If our offset, technically it's the minimum, the maximum minus the minimum, but var upper right equals background dot right, and that is offset max. That is a vector 2, right? And then we'd want to create a new vector 2, which is basically var. Well, we can actually manipulate upper right, right? We want to say upper right dot x equals. Technically, all we have to do is do this, right? And then we say foreground. And probably we shouldn't be calling get component over and over again, but we can optimize that out. Right, so we scale the upper right and only the x because it's a horizontal bar and see. So if I press play, this should jump to the middle, right? If I didn't absolutely butcher that. Let's see how this goes. The noise is still ongoing. Hold on. So this did nothing, right? let's trace these values real quick. So why is it importing assets when I added a script, for crying out loud? So offset max should be this, right? Well, the 250. No reference. So we don't have an object foreground because we searched foreground here, right? So maybe we should make, come on. So we want to move this next to this, right? So, but we want the different order. It didn't find the object. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So it didn't find foreground. Did we call it foreground? We called it foreground. My bad. Oh, it's not doing anything. Can you stop? Oh. And that's why some people prefer drag and drop to avoid those typo issues, but it's not making your life better, right? So we did something. So upper right is 0.8, so we set it to 0.8, right? So 0.8 is correct if you, because the anchors are differently, right? So this here, right? This is anchored from 0 to 1. So the upper right is actually 0. So we need to do the but wait, that's the offset of the, right? The offset of the upper right corner relative to the upper right anchor. So we actually need the difference between the anchors. My bad, right? So we need the anchor max and the anchor min, which gives us a size. Well, the anchor max min and the offsets, but the offsets are 0 for the moment. So, oh, the size delta. Size delta is actually a good one. Size delta is a good one. That saves us a lot of calculations, right? So we want the size delta, which is the size of this thing, right? And oh no. So it would be nice if they had like a had like an image, right? Okay. So wouldn't it be nice if they, okay. But how do I add this, right? So okay, so let's see what the size delta is. It's the wrong value. It is the wrong value. I just want to see what it is. basically in our case, right, the size delta is 16, which makes sense, right? Which makes sense. This is the size delta. What we actually want to do is the anchors of the parents. Is the anchor actually a normalized position, right? But I want the how do I get the actual get the corners of the calculated rectangle in the local space? Get local corners. Four corners array. The array that the corners are filled into. Get local corners. That sounds good, actually. So we have the corners, right? And then we say background dot get component rect transform dot get local corners b. Right, and that's an out, but that's fine. That's implicit. So from the local corners, right, we have a vector 2 ur, and that is basically if I have the local corners. In which order is that, right? In which order is that? So 4 vertices. Vector 3. Bottom left, okay. Bottom left, top left, top right, and bottom right, right? So this gives us bottom left, top right, and bottom right. We're hacking this, right? But that means the difference between top right minus bottom left gives us the size, right? So vector 2 x is top right dot x. Oh, it's not top right, right? It's v2 dot x minus v0 dot x. I'm not sure why this jumped to the next line. It wasn't me. All right, makes sense. And then this is v2 dot y minus v0 dot y. Right, this should be the size. I don't like this approach, but I also don't want to spend hours and hours writing the progress bar right now, right? I mean, we're talking about this. We're talking about dragging in a, well, no, we're talking about this. We're talking about dragging in a progress bar. So the reference script unknown on this behavior is missing. What? Fine. So wait, let's try this again. The problem is this progress bar takes so long that I have forgotten what I wanted to do once it's finished. Okay, so it's 16 by 16. Are we getting the background or the foreground? We're getting the background, right? We're getting the background component. We're getting the background. We're not getting the foreground. We're getting the background, right? Why is this 16 by 16? Height is 16, but why is the width 16? If I have the top right corner and subtract the bottom right, bottom left, I should get the width, right? What I want is 250. Why is this jumping randomly across the screen? Right? I want 250 here. Oh, I guess it's 250. It's hard to. I mean, how do you ever get anything done in Unity if all you do is waiting for this dialogue? Yes, I need to press stop before I start editing the script, but for crying out loud, I mean. So this works, right? This is roughly 50%. This is too high, and actually, why has this a height of 24? When I set it to all I want to get is the size of the image. Does the image actually, does the image have a size? UI.image. I currently can't do it like this, right? Unity engine. Wait. This is definitely Unity engine.ui, right? Unity.engine.ui.image. Really? All I want is get the size of the background image and set it to the foreground image. So what if, right? What if we take the background image, set it to left. The position is the position is 0. The width is a defined value, right? The height is a defined value. The anchor is fixed in the middle. What values do we get for that array? Please, Unity, tell me you can trace this. I don't know what it's doing. I mean, there are no assets. It's literally an empty project, right? It's I didn't want to do a progress bar. So, oh, thank you. It's telling me it's a vector 4 object. Can you just debug this for me? For each v vector 3 av. I mean, that's not what I wanted to do, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And I press stop so I don't have to go through this 3 times, but only 2 times. So it's 0, 0, 0, and 0. Wow. Unity get size of UI element in script. Reliable ways to get width and height of UI element. It's size delta. Okay, nobody solved that problem. Not So the problem is we tried size delta, right? We tried the size delta thing. We tried the size delta thing. Sorry. But the anchor is both left for both now, right? So these two here have the same anchors, right? The anchors are both set to the left side. Real quick, just to make it round, right? So they should work in the same coordinate system. So if we scale the x, we should just scale the x, right? This is 250 by 16, right? Which is what we wanted. And the other one, so background is 250 and this is 125. Okay, 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 okay. So let's forget all of this, right? Let's forget all of this. Let's forget this. Let's this, and let's forget this, right? So if we set the progress, and I want to set the progress to 99% now, right? Or let's set it to 90%, just for testing. So I expect the red bar to be almost the white bar in the background. I mean that, yeah, arrows. Where are my arrows? Oh, yeah, we don't need to get that. We will redo the UI anyway, but please jump to 90%. Just fill it up. Just fill. Look, this bar is still too high. I don't know why. Look, our code set set it to 16, right? And it's set to 24. If I set this to 16 and this to 0, it looks good, right? I don't know who set that to 24. Oh, why? Right, we want to set the size delta, right? We don't want to set the offset, and I did it again. Quick and dirty progress bar takes up half an hour. I mean, really, either I'm getting old or Unity is just crap. Yes, I said it. Unity is just crap. I don't know. UI system from hell. And now I get why people say UI takes forever and UI is complicated, right? UI is a trivial problem. And just to, this looks good, right? This looks good, ignore margins and stuff like that, but this looks good. So what I want to do now is the progress of the zone, right? So we could just, so what the debug UI will do in the update, right? And the debug UI doesn't know about the game, right? And the debug UI does know about the game. So the game has a get zone progress, right? The game has a public float get zone progress. And this basically says we have the game manager, right? Oh, we don't have the game manager. Okay. So I think we need to store the game manager, and when we can unhandle the game manager, right, is null, which is redundant because it's defaulted to null. Then we have the void setup and void configure, right? Just a bit of clean code. So this goes into setup, right? So we call setup builds everything and configure configures everything. And if setup fails, we don't configure, right? So what we actually do is var game manager equals transform dot find nope game manager, right? So far so good. Then we have a var game manager go equals game manager dot transform, which should never fail, but it's nice anyway. And then we have a game manager equals game manager go dot get component game manager, right? So we have a game manager now. So when we do the get zone progress, all we do is we say game manager get zone progress, which doesn't exist yet. So in the game manager, right? In the game manager, we implement a get zone progress. And that is basically return progress var progress equals 0.5, right? Let's make it 0.1 just to show that the wiring works. F. I mean, you could know that I implicitly mean that, right? So what the debug UI now does, the debug UI in its update, too much update, but basically it will say, hey, I have the game, right? I have the game. So I say game.get zone progress, right? And then we say we don't have the progress thingy, right? So we just find that. So we find the question is, we can do it the other way around, right? We just put it in as a property. So what we say is we have a, come on, and I'm going to change the order here slightly. External and internal, public UI progress bar equals zone progress, right? So what we can do now is here, can you please, oh, typo, and there's a return statement missing somewhere. Tail returns. So this should show up as zone progress now, and it forgets my scrolling, but that's so we have the zone progress here, right? And because I'm lazy, I just, and this probably should be the zone progress bar, to be honest. So debug UI should be the zone progress bar. And now everything falls apart again. Let's do this again. Better now than never. Better now than later. Yeah, it forgot the field because I renamed it. So I put the zone progress bar in here. So in our update, right? In our update, we have the progress. We just say zone progress bar set progress to progress. And yes, we do that every frame. I'm sorry. Wasn't it set progress? Public void set progress. Okay. Let's remove the noise, right? Don't want to, I'm getting tired of this. So it doesn't need the null initializer apparently. Rename, refactor, rename to Go. Refactor, rename. I mean, probably just typing it would have been faster. And then we have this empty update here, right? Which we don't need at the moment. So let's remove that, and all the debug errors are gone. Yeah, we're going to do a server-side analysis. So every frame we update the progress for the zone, right? So in theory, this progress bar should jump to 0.9, and then we can make this nicer by lerping it, or I don't care. I do not care. So this should jump to 0.1 because that's what we hard-coded, right? Much ado about nothing. And now we're going to write the 2 lines of code that I wanted to write an hour ago. So it jumped to 0.1, right? Obviously, it's not tracking the zone progress, and it's doing nothing when I press next, right? So let's fix that, because the game manager, right, when it spawns a zone, the zone knows its size, right? The zone knows its size. So what if the zone remembered its size, right? Private vector 2, and I'm going to use a vector 2 here, size, right? And this is private, so we do this. Different naming scheme here, ignore. I mean, so when loading, when we have the size, right? When we have the size, we say this dot size dot x equals size dot x. It's size. Right, and this dot size dot y. We're not really using y, it will always be the same. So we know the size of the zone, right? So I want a getter for that. Public vector to get size, which returns the size. If it were type, I wouldn't make so many typos, but can you just not compile when I save? Can you compile when I open Unity? Because I want to edit 5 files. Thank you. Just for you. So the game manager now, when it spawns a new zone, right? When it spawns a new zone, it needs to remember the position. So we have a, no, this is the entity config. So we have a position, right? Private. Let's make this a vector 2 actually. Zone pos, right? Pos is the only thing where I shorten it usually, right? So when we enter a new zone, thank you. When we enter a new zone, after we spawn a new zone, before we emit the, how can you work? Before we make the zone change, right? Probably we could have a on progress changed as well, but so we set zone pos equals new dudes, people working here. So, and this is not what I wanted to type, right? So this slow editor is really breaking my flow. Are we done now? Are we done now? So in the update, right? In the update, so I didn't even save. I just typed. So if we are moving, then in the update, right? In unusable. Here's the start. It's not doing anything. I shouldn't have focused Unity because now it's all I want to do is edit one file and do 5 lines of changes. I'm this close to stopping this project, just redoing it in Godot, be done next week. Right, here's the update. here's the update. So if this moving, right? If we are moving, this is only Rider and Unity. It's all the other stuff works, right? So if this is moving, right, and we do this in the game object and in the obstacle, right? In the obstacle, you have the speed, right? We have the speed. So we know the current, we could just use the current speed. We could just get the current speed from the GameManager, from ourselves. We have a helper for that, right? So if we are moving in the update, if we are moving, we're getting the speed, right? My guess is that Unity is just leaking and my system started to swap like crazy. So we get the current speed. We don't care about the minus, right? We get the current speed. And we say zone pos.x plus equals speed, right? That's all. On every update, we advance the... I bet either Unity or Rider is leaking like crazy. But let's see. So that means when we get the progress, right? When we get progress, we know how far we are in the zone and we know how wide the zone is, right? So we just need to divide zone pos divided by m zone dot get size dot x. Right? This is all. M zone is the current zone. We need to y. Oh, zone pos dot x. Wow. I want to check something real quick. So memory. Unity, 34 gigabytes of memory. Unity is leaking like crazy. So what we will do, I don't know why Unity is leaking this badly. I mean, I know why Unity is leaking this badly. So I want to save. Can I at least save? I'm going to quit Unity, right? I'm just going to quit Unity. Unity is leaking like crazy. And so you cannot leave it open for more than 2 hours. You have to close it every 2 hours, right? So, oh, look, my system is behaving again. Obviously, Rider now is a bit lost because Unity is gone, but let's fix this .x here real quick before. I mean, we killed Unity, right? So Rider must be like, hey, I can't edit text files because I don't have that giant memory hog running in the... This is all I wanted to do, right? So let's open the project again. I'm gonna... Oh, looks. Unity was still running, is killed now. I mean, Godot happily 1.3 gigabytes, all fine. Unity only gets killed when you restart it. So you can close it, but it keeps running in the background until you start the next one. And you get this weird pop-up and it will start killing itself in the background, which is... Oh, look, Unity is back to 1.4 gigabytes. So maybe we can work now, please? Can we work now? Is it possible to work now? So let's see. Okay, my screen just went off. So shall we just give this a go? I'm just going to press play, right? I mean, literally what we did the last 1.5 hours took 2 minutes in Godot. So we're looking, this bar's at 0, right? I mean, we don't have a zone and initialization, and we don't have a zone, a new zone, but I start swimming and the progress is going up, right? Because I'm almost through the zone, I'm halfway through the zone. Actually, I'm kind of halfway through the zone and I'm completely through the zone, which is not true. And obviously the zone wrapping doesn't clamp the value, right? maybe we should clamp that value. Right, we're wrapping the zone, so we're moving on forever, so nobody ever really. Oh, now Rider is taking up 18 gigabytes, so wow, it's that gem. Okay, let's try. I mean, in theory, if we double click a script now, Rider should open. I'm just gonna move that to the left screen here real quick while I go to the right screen here and move that back. So can we continue playing now? Can we? So is there a dot clamp? Oh, it's probably a mass f dot clamp 0 to 1. Thank you for taking it right. It should be 0 to 1 anyway. If there's no zone, we get an exception. If the size is 0, we get an exception. I don't care. So this is the code we wanted, right? This 1.5 hours. Because Unity is kind of brain dead. So let's try this again. I start swimming. I think the progress is too fast, to be honest. It feels like... Well, okay, the zone ends here, so yeah, it's kind of okay. I'm gonna wire up that next button and then we have a bit of better data, but we have a progress bar. We have the progress bar for the zones, right? And we have the next button. So let's wire up the next button. So wire up the next button. So what we're gonna do, debug UI, the next zone button, right, has a on click. So just like the zoom button, we're gonna hook up the debug UI, right? So gonna go to the debug UI. Should be pretty straightforward now. And it's nice that you remembered my window size. So debug UI gets a public void on zone on click next zone button, right? We want to do something in this case. So the It's a little bit faster now, but it's still. So the next zone button, right, has a click. So we have to do this. We click, drag in ourselves. Yes, we could write up all this in code, but I'm too lazy. We have a debug UI, and then we have a on click next zone button, right? Wired up. So what we will do now is the game has a public void go to next zone, which is more like a debug, but it's nice, right? So we basically tell the game manager go to next zone, which doesn't exist yet, which where the editor is not liking us, but we're gonna do this, go to the game manager, go to next zone, and basically we say we have a cleanup, right? We call cleanup, and then we do spawn zone. Right? So we wired all of that up. So the debug UI just says, hey, game, and I like to, maybe I should do this, right? Game, go to next zone. That's it. Wired up, right? I'm not a fan of mixing this in UI and code, so let's clean that up at some point. So if I press play now, and let's zoom out a bit, and if I press next, I'm not sure why it, where did I put the code in the update or somewhere? On click next zone button, we say go to next zone, right? No. So why was it? So everything is fine, right? I go to next. Let's remove the progress bar tracing, right? Let's remove the progress bar tracing here because it's just a bit noisy. Why is this red? Because it's not in Git, right? Let me do a git add so we don't forget it. Thank you. It's not fun. It's not fun. Yeah, get a faster machine. This machine is fast. Fast enough to do other stuff, right? So let's clear this. We start swimming. Let's clear this anyway. I missed the clicks. The clicks are gone, right? So I click next. Maybe let's remove the obstacle speed stuff as well, right? So the obstacle traces its speed in the update, which is a bit... It does? Obstacle speed. Why is... A, why is this called so often? And B, why are we tracing the speed here? Okay, again, let's reduce the debug noise, right? So we clear everything. We start swimming. We change the zone. I press next. Why is it? So go to next zone, right? Clean up, destroying everything. Go to next zone. I only clicked that button once. Go to next zone. Wait. So this is constantly being called, right? So this is called from here. And did we put it in the wrong? Here's what's happening. Here's what's happening. So I start playing, right? Let's clear this. Let's play, right? Let's play. I click next, and then whenever I press space, it presses the next button. So how do I Unity do not trigger UI with space? So you need to find game object with event system and uncheck send navigation events. Oh, here. That's the boilerplate, right? And this. But I do want to send navigation events. I just don't want to spend space, right? So let's fix that at some other point. So we're playing the game, right? We're going to the next zone. It resets and we can continue playing. Nice. We're going to the next zone and we can continue playing. We're going to the next zone and we continue playing. Nice. Going to the next zone and continue playing. And what I want to do now is we disable the wrapping mode, right? We disable the wrapping mode. Let's disable the wrapping mode. And I think that was on the game manager wrap world, right? We just disable that. We're 2 steps away from having kind of a real game. So it still spawns at the wrong position, right? But I restart. Okay, next zone. I swim. Okay, let's start, and the zone starts roughly here, right? So they despawn, and when it's roughly here, it should say 100%, which is not correct, right? So it despawned all that stuff, so it should go to next zone and be fine. So we need 2 things. We need to spawn everything offset to the right, and I'm just gonna steal the offset from Godot, right? Because we have the game manager here, and then we have spawn zone has an offset, right? There's an offset somewhere. No, no, I didn't choose Unity over Godot. We're doing both, right? We're doing the project in both systems at the same time, and right now I'm ready to just give up on the Unity version. No, we're doing both as a test, what is easier, and so far Godot wins by light years. So I wonder where the offset is. So we spawn a zone, right? We have the zone spawn offset, right? So we have the zone spawn offset. I forgot what that was, but the zone spawn offset, in the main thing was actually, I'm going to add this to favorites so I don't have to constantly scroll. right? So the game, let's go in there, and the game manager has a zone spawn offset, and that's 1,000. So we're gonna go do the same in Unity, right? So the game manager has a zone spawn offset. So I'm not sure why this is public, but oh, wait, we're doing this again, right? So public float zone spawn offset that equals 0.0f, right? And then when we spawn an object, we just add that offset. So here we just say zone spawn offset, right? And then in the editor for the game manager, we set the zone spawn offset to 1,000, right? So if I run this now, all the objects should spawn off screen, right? It's probably easier to see when we, so it all spawns off screen, which is nice. So the next thing is when we reach the end of a zone, we automatically need to trigger the next zone, right? And we almost have what we had with Godot a week ago. I'm still stuck in Unity. I was so hoping to wrap this up so we can go back to Godot. So in update, right? In update, if this is moving, if zonepos.x is larger than mzone, and mzone is wrong, right? This needs to be like current zone or something. mzone.size.x. Don't use Unity. You'll go crazy. It's so slow. Godot is so much faster. Then we just say go to next zone, right? I'm not sure why expensive method invocation. Why? Why is this expensive? So, but I mean, what's your, why is Ryder suggesting this? So, I mean, Unity prevent functions are called very frequently, either every frame. I mean, so probably we should do a deferred call or something like that, but I don't know. Unity script queue call from update. There has to be something like do it soon. Unity script call at end of frame or something like that. Wait for end of frame. We don't want to wait for end of frame, right? How do I Unity queue call from update? Probably it doesn't matter right now. It would be nice if Ryder had said, hey, do this instead, but it makes sense that it doesn't want us to do this, but it has to be like, do this later, right? So What the does destroy, run and edit, public methods, starts a coroutine. I'm not sure I want this as a coroutine, to be honest. I wish there was a I don't want to. Actually, that's not. So we're just gonna ignore this for the moment. We're just gonna ignore this, right? We're just gonna go. So this theory is ideally I would defer this to do this whenever you have time, right? So I start swimming. Let's go small so we see what's happening outside of the camera. Yeah, it's time to. So, oh, okay. Here's a fun thing, right? We shouldn't go. We just want to do a spawn zone because go to next zone cleans up, right? So we don't want to clean up. We just cleanup is happening at the left side of the screen, right? So we just want to spawn the next zone, which is currently the same zone, but right about now it should spawn the same zone again, right? And that means we can just go on forever and ever and ever and ever in Unity now. I hate the UI. That turned out so ugly for so much work. We'll do something about that. So this works, right? We're probably gonna redo it in UI toolkit just because. So this works, which is nice. So let's actually do a git commit of this. Oh, we need to add the progress bar meta as well. And actually, Unity add zone debug UI and Unity add zone auto spawning of zone when current zone is done. And let's say add auto spawning of zone, right? And we're still in the add simple zone management. So I'm going to stage this. This is a scene where we did a lot of stuff. Debug UI, we moved some stuff around. We added the zone label. We split the setup and configure a bit just to make it cleaner. We still have to decide what comes from the tree, from the UI, and what do we do in code. We're experimenting with both ways just to get a feeling. So debug UI, the game, we also split the setup and configure. We handle the zone change, we get the progress, we get the go to next zone. It's all on the GameManager, but for the outside world, only game exists. So GameManager, we added events, we have the zone spawn offset, which is set to 1000 now. We added the event, which gets the new zone name. We have the zone position. We're moving that, we spawn the... I'm not sure why... Was this an auto format that happened somewhere? Nice to make a commit unclean. I didn't do that. Sad. We get the progress and we have to go to next zone. We have the new zone. We actually save our name and we save our size. And the obstacle, we removed some debugging because it was just too noisy. So technically, let's say this is episode 10 because we did 2 streams today, right? Add zone debug info to UI in Unity and also add auto zone spawning, automatic. Commit, rebase, push. No. Rebase, push. All open source as usual. Both versions in the same repository. So there's one thing I want to do, right? And that is loading all the zones, because we have so many nice zones in the project. So right, we have tons of zones in here. So I want to load all of them in the same folder, and then we call it a day. So the game manager, right? The game manager on initialize loads a zone. And so I would love to do this async, right? But on start, we load this zone, right? So probably what we should do is we check for all zones with an extension. So C# list all files in folder with extension. Probably it's list all files and filter. But maybe there's a shortcut. Directory get files, search option all directories. Directory get files. Get files. Get files name extension option. So we probably want this, right? Thank you. It wasn't very helpful. So returns the names of files that match the specific search pattern. Okay, directory get files. So var zone files equals directory get files. And we're gonna put this into a variable, right? Var zone pass. Because this doesn't sound like something we want to do in a loop. Right, so this is the zones. Is this with a trailing slash or without? Thank you. Is this with a trailing slash, I believe. So like this. And then we want to get files zone pass. And what I actually want to do is var zone extension zone next is .nzne, right? And that's a pattern, so it needs to be star dot zone pattern. Semicolon missing here, so we say comma zone pattern. Pattern. Right? Let me say for each in zone files var zone file in zone files, we say debug log dot log loading this, right? It's not true right now. This autocompletion was strange. I mean, oh, there's a, okay. So when we start, we should get the log spammed with all our zones, right? That's step one. That's nice. That is nice. We're gonna filter some that we don't want loaded. Step two, right? Null reference. Get zoom. Get zoom was called before setup of this, which is, I'm gonna ignore this for the moment. So it's loading all the files, right? We have some cleanup issue here, but it's showing all the files, which is nice. So let's load all the zones and just right now brute force load all the zones, right? So we have, and I don't want a dictionary, right? So private, oh, thank you. I mean, you could have sent that warning like array of new zone, right? And we call this zones. Is this not the syntax? Oh, that's not nice. I want to be sure. C# typed array. It's probably a list, right? It's gonna be end up being a list. Arrays. Collections. List. We could do a list. List, yes. Is there an overview of collection types? Key value, iterators. Um, C# collections. Really, list and dictionary. Grow and shrink. Array. Is it really? Is it really? So array doesn't have a type. What? What? Can I do this at least? No, it's a new zone array, right? Okay. So what we can do now is when we iterate, where do we iterate? Where do we iterate? Where do we, here, right? So I want to refactor this. So this basically var zone, and then we say okay, let's var our zone. I just want to help the refactor, right? Zone equals null, and in this case we say rz equals zone, and here we say zone equals rz, right? Why? Okay, new zone. right? Because now I want to pull this here, this block here. Input is the pass, output is RZ, right? Refactor, extract method. No, I want a method. The name is load new zone, right? The return type is RZ, which is nice. It gets parse and RZ, which is not true, but we can fix that in a minute, right? So we have load new zone. We don't need to pass in new zone because it will just return that, right? So we can just say zone equals this, right? We don't need this. That was just to help the serializer, the refactor. So obviously here we return null. Well, basically here we return null, right? And here we return zone. I love how it messed up. How it couldn't decide braces on the same line or not. It's either or. It's not both. It's one of the above, right? So we just refactored that. Let's give that a quick spin if it broke something already. It shouldn't have. We just pulled it into a method, right? That looks good. Next zone looks good. So fine with me. So the nice thing is what we can do now is, since it's just this, right? So basically what you can do is you can say var z equals load new zone zone file, right? That's loading all the zones. Then we say zones dot append add push C# append to array, adding values it probably should be a list, right? Okay, so we need, let's do a list, right? Let's do a list and then we can just add the value. So let's assume the zones is a list and then we just add the zone, right? Let's pretend. So let's pretend this is a list, right? I hope that's initialized to an empty list. Let's see. Why can't I do this? Cannot resolve add range. No, I never said add range. I said add. And then M zone is simply zones 0, right? The first entry. Will crash if there are no zones, but for the moment I don't care. Let's give this a shot. This probably delays startup a bit. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Why? Can you just stop on the first error, please? Oh, zones is not initialized. Okay, so I assumed it's an empty list. My bad. So new list. Yeah, you auto-completed this, my friend, so don't blame me for incorrect number of type parameters. Wait, is it redundant or? It's redundant, but it's needed, right? Okay, fine with me. Let's try this again. And yes, I added it while in game mode, in play mode. I need to sleep now. It's going to be a tough week, but I want to spawn all the different zones. Okay, so we still have the initial null reference, which we expect, but we loaded all the zones, right? And this should play I love fish because we default to the first zone, right? So when we go to spawn zone now, right? Go to spawn zone. What we actually could do, we could say zone equals zones 0, right? Or any other value. So C# get random entry of list. Yeah, we just create a random value, but I forgot how to do that. Yeah, so this sounds right. We have var, let's call it R&D, and then we say var I for index equals R&D. Can you just next in the range of zones dot lengths, right? Thank you for the weird autocomplete here. And then we just say this, right? And I'm pretty sure random is Unity engine random or system random. What's better? Oh, that's static. So is it just var I equals random dot range? Float. Float. I don't want to float. Okay, let's use system random, right? So we should get a random zone now whenever we... The noise out there is amazing. So that means we get a random zone, right? Seaweed again. Okay, we don't have seaweed objects, but that zone is over, so it spawns start, which is empty, which is a bit boring. We have the quick dip. We have the I love fish and rust. We have the quick dip. We have the anchor. We have the test. We have the zigzag. We have the I love fish, zigzag, seaweed again, quick dip. It's not loading all of them, right? There's something pink and purple. We have the tunnel. Zigzag D. So we can spawn different zones and we can load all of them. This needs some cleanup. Right, because remember in Godot in the game manager when we had some magic with the zones, right? We basically said, hey, this is always the initial zone. Then certain zones we don't automatically pick, right? And so, but for now we can spawn different zones, and that's all I want, right? Using JetBrains annotations for what? I don't care. So Unity load and use all legacy zones. Now, almost where we are with Godot. I was hoping to have this done today, but sorry not. So let's stage this. Let's stage this. S0E10 load all, load, and use all legacy zones in Unity. In Unity version of the game. Rebase and push. And we're getting awfully close to having parity again, right? We have the Godot version here with all the different zones. We have the, you can make this very small. Maybe the next should have a, maybe there should be a next and a next with cleanup, so we could just spawn all the zones in one. But we can see a lot of zones here, right? And then we have the Unity version. We have the Unity, thank you for that. We have the Unity version here, right? And we make this very small. And then we can spawn a lot of zones here. And the zone spawning is actually pretty fast, right? So we can load all the legacy levels, which makes me super happy. So with that, I hope you had fun. I hope my frustration about how bad Unity is didn't leak through too much, but Godot is winning. Godot is winning. And with that, we're swimming and hope the fish doesn't die. I hope you stay safe. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you on Tuesday. Bye bye.